Happiness is beautiful, it's a kind reality. Happiness is the highest good, happiness is free. So let's be so very happy. Yeah, let's be so very happy. Yeah, let's be so very happy.
Welcome to the Happiness Show. This is George Ortega. I'm here with Claudia Basson and Nevin Roby, and we're here to talk about happiness, because happiness is, always has been, and always will be the point of it all.
Absolutely.
Today we're going to be talking about happiness and mindfulness meditation, and we have a very special guest. Paula Caracappa established the Center for Self-Empowerment. She's a recognized leader in teaching and facilitating contemporary Western meditation, and she teaches the 8-week mindfulness meditation program at the Northern Westchester Hospital Center for Health and Healing. Paula, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, George.
Paula.
Good to
Welcome,
be back.
Paula.
A new host since the last time I was here.
Fantastic.
Great. Okay.
Thanks for having me.
Sure. Yeah, because remember last time you were here explaining how living in the present is so important to our happiness. So this time we're going to explore mindfulness meditation. But before we get into that, can you just explain to the audience a bit about your work?
Yeah, I would love to. I'm a holistic practitioner, and what I do is to help people be the best they can. That means body, mind, and spirit. So I work a lot with the mind and its connection to the spirit and to the body. And one of the things I do is Reiki, which is a form of energy healing. I'm a Reiki master teacher. Yeah, feel the energy of the body and work with it. Yeah, it's great. It's great. You know, we think the body ends here, but it doesn't. It doesn't.
So what is that, energy that
it's
comes
energy,
from
chi or prana. And Reiki is very much about bringing energy from a universal source into the client for healing. And again, healing on the body, mind, and spirit level. Even though we're working ostensibly with the body, it really affects the mind and spirit also. And I'm also a certified polarity practitioner, which is another kind of energy work, and that's about balancing the energy. Where Reiki is about bringing in energy, polarity is about taking the energy that's here that is often like out of whack, because we're always a little out of whack.
Well,
so
what makes us out of whack?
Balancing it.
You think?
Our lives, our stressors.
So stress changes our polarity.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Is there a way
Think
polarity
about
should flow? Certain direction
Ideally, it flows in and it flows out, because it's always balanced.
Okay.
Okay? And ideally, we would feel physically, we would feel centered, grounded. If you ever take a yoga class.
all the time.
Okay. Anybody else yoga enthusiast?
Oh yeah, I do yoga now.
You know, if you at the point where you're doing the dead man pose, if you really pay attention to your body, there's a really good chance you'll notice one side feels very different from the other.
I feel like I'm levitating when I do that pose.
That's good.
That's good?
That's a great thing.
Okay, I thought I was
but
like
tune
doomed.
into the idea of the dual sides of your body, and you may notice that one side feels very different. The right side being what is commonly known as the male side, the doing side, the linear thought side. The left side is the female side, the intuitive and receptive side.
Is that what
you may sense one is bigger than the other.
My left breast is bigger than my right. Is that anything
There
to do
you
with it?
go.
The right
That's
one's the
your
man
feminine
one. That
side.
should be smaller. I get it.
That could be.
That makes perfect sense.
I think what a lot of people find in this world is the right side is often depleted because we're doing so much.
I mean, mostly
And
right-handed. Does that have anything to do with it? Most
Because
people
that's the
right-handed?
doing side.
Ah,
so it makes
so it's
sense
depleted.
that it's the right side.
I love
And
that.
because we do a lot, you know, most of us, especially those of us that are in private businesses, our workday is very often 10, 12, 18 hours. It's not unusual to
Absolutely,
work
in
7
America.
days a week over and over again.
Wait, so a lefty's less depleted?
The doing side is often depleted. Now, it might be, but it might be different. Let's say the female side of anybody, the nurturing side, if you have a child that's ill or a parent that you're taking care of who's elderly, your nurturing, giving side might be depleted because you're spending so much of your energy on that other person.
Very interesting.
And where you can really, I think of yoga as the place to tune into it, because we are so in touch with our bodies when we're doing yoga, and when we're still, think about doing that the next time you take a yoga class and you're at that still point at the end. Just notice whether one side feels stronger, bigger, more expanded. See if the other side feels a little bit collapsed. That's the sense that I get of it.
Let's do
So
some.
that's the energy work.
Let's do some right now. Let's get George to lie on this little tiny table and feel position.
Yeah, we're going to do a show on yoga positions. There's one I do that's like called the knee to ear position, where you roll up in a ball, and your knees are really on either side of your ears and all. It's kind of like being totally, it stretches out the back so
Releases
great.
your back.
Oh, it's so good.
Releases everything in the
All
back.
right, well, let's get to mindfulness. Here we go.
All right, so that's the energy work.
That's
And
cool.
a piece of what I do is also meditation, and that's really what we're here to talk about today is mindfulness meditation.
Right, all right. So explain to our audience, what is mindfulness as a concept?
Mindfulness is about awareness. It's being here. It's being aware of what's happening right now. And very often, we're not aware of what's going on. We're thinking about what we're going to say next, very much the living in the present conversation we had last time. Or we're thinking about some previous experience that has happened in our lives. Or if we are in the present moment, we may be focused on only one aspect of the present moment. So mindfulness is being aware of where we are, what's happening, being really tuned in, having an awareness. That's
Of all
the deal,
things
being
in that
aware.
present environment, not
Exactly.
just what you're going to say and what's going on, but all the aspects of the
Exactly.
environment. So that's many levels.
On many levels.
Sounds
so
stressful.
think about
Too much to juggle.
Think about just the physical aspect of it.
Okay.
You know, tuning into our senses, being aware of what's coming in through all of our senses at a given moment, and also being aware of the mind, being aware of the spirit, being whole. You know, it's very much about being complete and being present. So that really is what being mindful is. And you know, if you think about it, how often are we mindful? And how often are we scattered? How often are we not here? How often are we someplace else?
Usually
So being
42nd and Broad.
mindful.
That's where the scattering happens. And it radiates from there.
Right, so if someone is really kind of not hypervigilant, but really not self-conscious, but really so aware of what's going on around them every second, and we find that to be, sometimes people might say that person's like tense, maybe they're just being mindful. I mean, can you see that in someone being mindful?
You can see the person who's really present,
Okay.
and that's the person who's mindful. And I think the person who is tense is very often, my experience is they're very often not present. They're very often tense because they are thinking about the future. And I say this with some knowledge because I have been there. You know, I have lived from lists and planning my life in 15-minute intervals for the next 5 years. You know,
You wanted to change that?
and
You didn't like that?
and what I want to be is present.
Yes.
I don't want to be living 5 years from now in a place, in a situation that may never happen.
Mhm.
Right.
I want to enjoy this moment.
Good
This
point,
is really the only moment. So I think in terms of who's tense, I think the tension generally comes from anticipation, sometimes from fear,
Mhm.
sometimes from being overwhelmed. That's a big piece of what meditation is good for.
So that
is
must work great
people
for
who are
social
overwhelmed.
anxiety, right?
And you know, in the world today, most people, I shouldn't say most people, many people are overwhelmed. Everybody's got so much to do. I think I might have said this on the last show, George, but there was a study done about, you know, if we did all the things that we're supposed to do in a day, you know, if we flossed, if we exercised,
I
if we
flossed
spent
too.
time with the kids, got the 8 hours sleep, blah, blah, all the things we're supposed to do, the day would have to be 35 hours long.
I think we should change the day then. Because too much stress to do it in
Well,
24.
you're going to have to write to
24
the
hours.
Sun and get that straightened out. But that creates the
Email.
stress in us.
Email,
That
absolutely.
creates the stress. There's
not enough
so
time.
many demands
Somebody
on us,
says
or
that, yeah.
perceived demands.
You talk about mindfulness and the meditation, but what about the home? I mean, where you sleep is, I feel, the most important spot for happiness. I mean, that's like their whole recharging stage. So, like, how do you do like a feng shui with people? Do you explain that besides the awareness? I mean, because the placement of objects in a room can really comfort you.
Yeah.
You know, you have clutter in a room, you don't sleep well, and then you're miserable.
I'm not a feng shui practitioner.
Okay.
I have some knowledge of feng shui, and I've taken courses in feng shui. But what you say about clutter, which is, you know, a very important aspect of feng shui, it kind of goes to the mindfulness thing too, because when we're not mindful, our mind is cluttered. You know, we've got a lot of random thoughts going on.
OCD.
So exactly, and so if we can get clear and get present, we don't have that mental clutter, which may be reflected in the environment. You know, very often, I just read this yesterday, and I think it's so true. Very often, when you go into someone's home, it's such a reflection of them. And when you see the neat and orderly home, very often the person themselves is an orderly thinker, and they're calm to be around. When you see the house that's chaotic and there's piles of newspaper and, you know, whatever all over the house, very often that's the person's state of mind too. Feng Shui is a very interesting topic for another
We should
show.
do that.
I love the way she touches you. I love when she does.
I love George.
giving
I love
energy.
George.
Good.
Just being with George makes me
Every
happy.
time she does it, all I
You're
can think
missing
about.
out. We should switch.
It's okay because I'm actually getting the energy from her.
I'll give it right to you.
It's kind of like Chevy Chase and
pass it along.
Caddyshack, you know.
There we go.
No.
Group
Well,
Reiki. Can you do group Reiki?
You can do group Reiki. There are Reiki circles. But meditation, one of the things about getting back to meditation, and we'll get back to mindfulness meditation, but meditating in a group. You know, a lot of people have difficulty meditating on their own. They get lost. They intend to meditate, but then they're thinking about what they're cooking for dinner or what movie they're going to see Saturday night. But meditating in a group, often there is an energy that kind of supports the person that's a little bit lost or having difficulty with the discipline of it. Meditating in a group does have a wonderful energy to it that I recommend. I run a couple of groups every week, and the people who participate really enjoy being part
I
of
agree
the group.
completely. I've been meditating on my own for years, and about a couple of months ago I started meditating with a small group doing Zen meditation, and it's a very different experience. I mean, it's kind of like we draw from each other's energy on that.
Exactly. There's a group energy there that's pulling you all in and supporting you.
That is cool.
It is
We
very
should do it.
cool.
Larry, do you meditate?
Only when I'm sleeping.
We just wanted to let you know today we have our first live audience of Happiness Show. Only when he's sleeping he said he meditates, Larry. You're in so much trouble when we get off the stage. And we want you to enjoy our live comments from our live audience today. We're going to have a dead audience as well at some point.
You have to clap when
There's
you
a
hear
type
comment
of there's
you
a type
like.
of meditation though that Claudia and I have experienced. I don't know if you have musically, but in front of a crowd playing live, there's energy flowing there that improves. I mean, bands that I've been in the past, we'd practice 3-4 times a week, couple hours, you know, each day. We'd get energy from one another. But then it came a live show, and it just leveled up our talent and ability just due to the fact of the crowd.
It's like
It's
brain
different.
chemistry,
Well-
right? You just get pumped with all this adrenaline. It's just such
Yeah, but adrenaline is something that's just a quick shot. You know, I mean, if you're going to play 3 hours, I mean, like
maybe
when you
it
used to play.
sustains it.
It could be. That could be
Maybe
it.
with all that interaction and all of the cosmic flow of energy coming from the audience, it
Just
know,
as the drug.
keeps
Yeah.
infusing
I guess you can't get rid of drugs and rock and roll then.
I think you're very much talking about a kind of mindfulness meditation, because many activities can be meditative, many activities. You know, what I do with the group is sitting, and I go through a series of visual images for them and breathing, and we get to a still place where they can be with themselves and be very tuned into the moment. What you're talking about musically is the same thing. It's being very tuned into the moment. Not really, you're not in the past or the future in that moment.
Right.
You're right there with the music, with the crowd, with the energy of the crowd. That is very much
And the
what
sonic energy.
mindfulness is about.
You know, music itself, the sound waves,
right.
different frequencies, you know, do different things to our bodies. You know, I mean,
Energy is
Stuff.
vibration.
Yeah.
Everything is vibration. So
except light.
absolutely.
There's no vibration in light. That's an energy that has no vibration.
Mr. Scientist, thank you so much for that.
Discovery Channel. That's all I can say.
Very good. Discovery
I like
Channel.
Survivor Man myself.
Yeah.
Okay.
So is there energy then in Reiki when you work? That fascinates me because I like hands-on stuff.
Claudia, let's get back to the mindfulness.
Oh, you're
and
shutting me
listen to that.
down?
I'm shutting you down.
Okay, mindfulness meditation.
Yeah, so
Yes.
like,
So-
let's go, like, we've got these, like, outlines. Let's do the outlines.
All right, we'll stick to
Okay,
the
here we
outline.
go.
I'm a bad structure.
No, yeah, well, let's do this. So where did the idea of mindfulness begin? You know, how did that originate?
It really goes all the way back to Buddhist meditation. That's really the beginning of mindfulness. And mindfulness, there are different styles of meditation, but mindfulness meditation is about being aware. It's about coming to a still place and then noticing what thoughts pop up. You know, sometimes people feel like meditation means that you're blank and you're not there, but that's not the case. Mindfulness meditation is about being present. Very often our presence does go to the mind and we kind of lose the body unless we choose to tune back into the body. But it is noticing what thoughts come up. It's not engaging with the thoughts, though. You know, that's thinking, that's problem solving, that's good, but
So
it's not
never
what
a
meditation.
cognition.
It's noticing, there I am thinking about that ice cream I had yesterday that I shouldn't have had. Oh, okay, I noticed that thought, I let it go.
You should always have ice
I
cream.
come back. I should.
Ice cream.
I come back to my breath. You know, the breath is the anchor, and the breath is the anchor because the breath is a very present moment event.
So you're thinking
So
about
if
the
we
breath.
stay with the breath, that can be our anchor. We can keep coming back to it. So we notice the thought, and we don't try to push it away. We don't try to shut it down. We just notice, oh, there's a thought, and we let it. My image for it is to turn it into a cloud and just let it float away. But whatever works for a person, it's just there it is, and let it go and come back to the breath. Another thing in mindfulness, you know, in meditation, very often you see people sitting cross-legged and
Right.
the spine erect, and that certainly is the right way to do it. Sometimes in that position, we get uncomfortable, particularly if you're not used to sitting that way. So another aspect of mindfulness meditation is to notice the physical discomfort, not necessarily to quickly and mindlessly jump out of it, but to first notice it, to be mindful of, oh, my back hurts, my leg hurts, it's a throbbing pain, it's a gentle pain, it's an extreme, just really notice it. Another aspect of mindfulness is noticing without judging. So while we might notice the different qualities, let's say, of the discomfort, or let's use the breath because that's a little bit more pleasant.
If it's good breath, if it's not good
noticing
breath.
whether the breath is deep or it's shallow, noticing whether one nostril is more open than the other or not. Just noticing without trying to change it and without saying this is good or this is bad. So we kind of step back and we become a witness to our own moment in time. That's all part of mindfulness meditation.
So is there anything you can demonstrate for us today on tape?
It would be a really quiet demonstration to have everybody meditate. I can tell you what a mindfulness meditation session is like with me, and this goes to the issue of being a Western meditator, because the Western mind is so very active all the time. You know, and we grew up hearing, learning, thinking that it's great to have an active mind, and it is. But what we've done is we've made the mind king rather than the spirit king. So there's a little bit of unlearning that goes on here. So what needs to happen in a meditation session with me is that once people are seated and comfortable, we need to get the mind to kind of stop running around. So we focus on the breath. We focus on relaxing the body one section at a time until the body is relaxed. The breathing is deeper. And then the relaxation of the body does affect the mind and the spirit. Go a little bit deeper, sometimes into a trance. We were talking about trance earlier during our lovely pizza lunch.
That was yummy.
It was good pizza.
And so we go into a trance state that's deep, and the person can then fully relax. And here's where we do the mindfulness meditation.
That was very relaxing. I
Noticing
enjoyed
what
it.
thoughts come up and
Okay.
what doesn't.
So we've got like basically the idea of what mindfulness is and how the meditation induces that state. Let's connect that with happiness. How does like that help us prevent the kinds of emotions, experiences that limit our happiness, and how does that enhance our happiness?
Okay, I have to jump in here because you can't prevent emotions.
Well,
They
no,
are free-flowing. They just
all right.
occur.
What I mean is, like,
That's
for
true.
example, there's a lot of evidence, a lot of research where, for example, the subjects are instructed to just read paragraphs of material. And if that material is, let's say, fearful material, they'll become more afraid. If it's angry, they'll become angry. So in a sense, we have the ability to kind of, by shifting our focus, our emotions will follow. So and that's what I mean, like, like mindfulness is kind of like an activity, and through that activity we connect.
I think I can answer what you're asking, George, and that is that through the mindfulness meditation, we actually become less reactive. So when a stressful situation occurs or we read something that's fear-inducing, the fact that we've been practicing meditation, our threshold, if you will, for a sense of agitation or anxiety has shifted. And where we might have once been very reactive, and as soon as we come across an unhappy sentence where, our emotions are very engaged and we're sad or whatever the emotion is, we have a less reactive response. We have a more mindful and thoughtful response to things. And literally, that threshold shifts the longer a person meditates. Meditation not only helps calm the mind, but as I'm sure you all realize that meditation is good for lowering blood pressure. It's been shown to lower cholesterol, which I think is just an amazing thing. It has a positive impact on some conditions that there is no other remedy for, like eczema, skin conditions, which is very interesting.
Asthma
to
as
me.
well, I believe.
Asthma, yes, absolutely. So many physical conditions that, it's my personal theory that they're just aggravated by stress. So the meditation, by lowering the stress level, impacts these conditions in a very positive way, as well as impacting our mood and our ability to be happy. Because obviously, if we're very reactive to everything that happens around us, the chances of our having a high stress level, a high anxiety level, is tremendous.
So, right, in a sense, so the meditation just kind of like makes us more in control of that base level, so that when things happen, we're not as reactive and we can maintain our basic consciousness.
Exactly. And, if we're more aware of the present moment, we can enjoy the present moment. We can have happiness as a foundation for our life. Instead of a place that we visit occasionally, it can be really the foundation of that peaceful, centered, balanced life.
Would you say that the South has a more mindful awareness of themselves rather than the North, which is just crazy chaotic, the two coasts? Like you go to Alabama, you ask for a Coke, it takes 20 minutes. But it's very calming almost in a way. As a New Yorker, it's like if you don't have that Coke in 5 seconds, there's going to be problems.
I think for sure the two coasts are very stressful places, and therefore absolutely would benefit from mindfulness meditation. Very often people say, well, who would be a good client for you? And my answer is anyone with stress in their lives, and so that's anyone who lives here who's over about the age of 2.
Lawyers, stockbrokers.
Everybody. Now, but in answer to your question about does a slower pace of life,
right, Southern culture versus Northern culture,
does that indicate mindfulness? And I honestly don't know the answer to that. Certainly just the act of slowing down
gives
a mindfulness a better chance of being there. But I don't know whether those cultures, whether there have been any studies done indicating that.
Because I'm curious. I mean, North America itself is an interesting, place. Our country. I mean, you've got like, Alaska, Hawaii. Then you've got like Boston. You have to think that, each section, they have their own little way of going about things. Yeah, you go through the Midtown Tunnel. It's like a crazy cluster of just madness. But talking about mindfulness, I'm thinking of like, Colorado, and I've gone skiing there. And I'm coming down the slopes, and I'm almost in a meditative state.
Absolutely, I'm sure you are. I'm sure you are.
But I like the breathing thing, because that almost kind of gets back into rhythm. Being a drummer myself, that's a type of, for me, like a meditation. The rhythm itself, I can feel in and out, a release of energy. So that's why I found it interesting. But here's my next question, really, is you talk about meditation. Where and what should you be wearing when you do this? Because I feel like the constrictions that we make on ourselves are clothing. So should we be outside on top of a mountain, like, the great Zen Buddhists in
If you're in New York,
Himalayas?
you should be dressed in black, of course.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That seems like a happy color, don't you think, George?
You want to be comfortable. Yeah, absolutely want to be comfortable. And, when I meditate with my group, everybody always starts in a meditative pose, but I encourage them to be comfortable. If you need to move your leg, move your leg. So when you show up for the class, you want to be in something comfortable and warm, because the body temperature does lower as you meditate, as you know from yoga, from the dead man pose at the end of yoga. The body temperature lowers. And actually, meditation is one of the two things that we can do for ourselves to prolong life, because studies show that the two things that can prolong life are decreased caloric intake and lower body temperature, and meditation can lower the body temperature.
So probably cell phones don't help.
Warmly. You want your cell phone off. And if you're going to meditate at home, I often suggest to my clients that they meditate for 10 minutes a day. Don't try to meditate for an hour as you're starting your practice. 10 minutes. If you can't do 10 minutes, do 5. But be comfortable. Turn off the phone. Turn off the TV. Put the cat in the other room with the door closed so he doesn't walk on you while you're meditating. Be comfortable. And just follow your breath. Just follow the breath in and out. And what you were saying about the rhythm of the breath, it's a very comforting thing to have that rhythm going on.
I do some meditating. Have you ever done Hak? It's a Korean style of...
No.
They sort of taught us to assign a color to your breath. And so that it's easier to focus on breath if it's not, people can't see breath. So if you assign a color to it, you can actually see it coming in and filling the lungs and then exiting as well.
There's a wonderful practice in relation to color and the breath and meditation, and that is to focus on a color that relates to one of the chakras, one of the energy centers, each of which is associated with a color, running from red at the base, which is the earth chakra, connected to things that are secure, safety, structure. The second chakra is known to as the color orange. It's about water, it's about flow, it's about relationship, creativity, sexuality is in the second chakra. The third chakra is at the solar plexus, yellow in color. It's about the self, self-knowledge, self-esteem, self-acceptance. The heart is green. I'm wearing my heart color today.
Good green.
And the emotions.
Let her continue. Hang on a second. I just want to get through all the steps. I knew you were going to interrupt. Green, chest, go ahead.
Speaking your truth, intellect, indigo blue, connection to spirit, purple.
Beautiful.
Okay, so focus on any one of those
colors
for what your goal is in that meditation. Okay, sorry, George.
Okay, if you want to give your contact information before we...
Yes, my telephone number is 914-422-1784, and my website is www.centerforselfempowerment.org, or a whole other thing, goddessdays.com.
Love that.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Paula. Okay, that's all we have time for today. Thanks for watching. In the future, we'll explore other topics designed to help us better enjoy life. This is George Ortega saying, be good, think well, feel very happy, and I hope you'll join us again next week here on The Happiness Show.
Yay, we got a little off track.
Happiness is powerful. It's our underlying need. Happiness is why we live each day. Happiness is destiny. So let's be so very happy. Yeah, let's be so very happy. Yeah, let's be so very happy.